listening to the Girl Talk podcast. My name is Carol.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And I'm Kelly.
And we're glad to have you around the table today. We've been saving a seat for you. And today we're going to hit the rewind button and go back to the past. Not really, we're not. We're going to talk about how to make peace with your past. I remember a conversation coming up with a friend of mine, and she kept going back to the things that she had done in her past, the mistakes she had made, and the failures she felt like that she had in her past, and she just really couldn't get moved beyond those things. And we started having a conversation. I thought this would be a great thing for us to talk about, because although I think our past shapes us into the person that we are today, it doesn't have to define us. So let's dive into that. We all come from different backgrounds and different lifestyles and different places, but the common thing is Jesus. And I think that's where we have to start with our story, is when he intervenes, everything becomes new at that point. And if you start there, it's really making peace with your past is just refusing to let the devil throw that up in your face, right?
Right. Well, you think about all the great Bible characters that we've talked about and heard about for years and years and years, and how ugly so many of their pasts were. I mean, Paul killed Christians. Mm-hmm. Noah was a drunk. Rahab was a prostitute. Mm-hmm. And the disciples denied Christ. They fell asleep when he needed them most. They ran away and hid, but yet God still redeemed them and used them in major ways that we're still talking about 2,000 years later, 4,000 years later in some cases. Surely God can use me, even though I've got stuff and junk in my past, and I'm redeemed.
Yeah. I think about my past. And yeah, there's like a part of me that wants to feel badly about it. And I made some really poor choices. Honestly, I made some really poor choices. And I didn't have really an excuse to. I was raised in a Christian home, and I just kind of went off the rails. There was a period of time in making really bad choices. And sometimes I think back on that, and it just makes me so much more grateful for God's forgiveness, so much more grateful for Jesus dying for me. And I know that I'm growing in my relationship with Christ when I get floored by how bad my choices were and how wonderful Jesus is for dying for me even then. And I don't know if you know that, you know the song, There Was Jesus, and the song Rescue Story, both from Zach Williams. I love this guy, because I think he made some bad choices. I think he's talked about that. But in his songs, he's like, I was walking through the desert. I was making bad choices, and Jesus was there. And look how he rescued me. And I hear those songs, and I think about times when I lived in New York City. And I mean, I was lost, girls. I had a faith, but I was making terrible choices, and I was lost. And I think, how did I get out of there? How did I not even die there? Like, I think choices I made walking late at night by myself, just things that I made that were bad ideas, and people I was with that could have ended in my death or something. And God rescued me. And it was my past that makes me so grateful for my future, because of Jesus. And I know I'm growing closer when I just stop and I cry and I thank God for saving me. And I mean, it's just amazing to me how Jesus saves us. And I love those songs because they remind me, even in the darkest moments when I was walking and I was my eyes were blinded, Jesus was there protecting me. I think about dark nights on the streets of New York City, and maybe I had been drinking and I had been with the wrong people, and I was walking down these streets and I could have been killed. I could have been robbed, terrible things. And I know he was there protecting me. I almost imagine him just shielding me from bad characters, and I'm just so grateful that he redeemed my past. Sorry. I went off a little crazy.
No, I'm glad you did.
Your story, Tricia, is very powerful, but I think in so many ways, that story is the same for so many of us, that we've all got that season of rebellion in our lives. Well, at least most of us have. I mean, I have the same kind of story. Mine wasn't in New York City, and it didn't involve, potential muggings and things like that. But there is a season in my life where I turned away from God, and I chose myself, and I chose my sin, and I chose my worldly pleasures over him. And I, like you, was raised in the church and knew better and knew that God loved me. And there was even times, if I'm truly honest, where I said, oh, God's going to forgive me for all of this rebellion, because that's what God does. God's a forgiving God. And I'll have this little season of fun, and then we'll get to the other side of it. And it's hurtful.
Well,
Yes.
I know for me, I did those same things. I went through my season of rebellion, but probably, when my life fell apart, I guess 11 years ago now, I thought, in fact, I had a family member who said to me, when you went through your divorce, I thought that would be the end of this Jesus thing for you. And I said, I think it's just the beginning. And it has been. I lived with this idea in my mind for most of my life before that I had to live a perfect life in order for Jesus to love me. And then when life fell apart, I came face to face with the question of, is every bit of what I say I believe true, or is it all the biggest lie I've ever fallen for in my life? Because it's one of the two. And right now I'm going to be making a decision on whether it's true or not. And I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to hang on to it with everything I got, or I'm giving up, I, of course, clung to the promises of God because that's all I had left, and found that in the brokenness of my life is where God has raised up the most opportunity to minister.
Amen.
And I don't know where, nobody ever told me that, but somehow I got that idea in my mind that, Christians are all perfect people, and that when anything broken happens in your journey or in your life, that oh my goodness, you can't, be a good Christian then, and I don't know where I got that idea, but I did. And so I thought when my life fell apart, this is it. And there was a small but very vocal group of people who, at that point in my life of, working here at the Light FM, who thought I should step down from my position. And I have to tell you that I agreed with them, because I did not want to be a blemish on the ministry of the Billy Graham Association. But I will tell you that in some of the darkest moments, I saw Jesus in such a new way. And Tricia, I think you're right. You never really can. I don't think you can appreciate the grace of God until you've totally just messed up so bad that there's no way you can put the pieces back together. And he comes in and makes it new. He doesn't put it back together and fix it, but he gives you something new.
Yeah, I picture.
I'm drying tears with a dish towel. That's real life right here.
It makes me picture a broken jar, right? And how when you put a candle inside a broken jar, the light comes out from all around. But if that jar is whole, there's no light coming out. It's got to have those broken pieces, and the light shines best through those broken pieces. So Carol, I'm so grateful personally that you didn't step down from your role when you were going through that brokenness, because your brokenness has helped me and helped so many other people understand their own brokenness and shine their light of Christ through their broken pieces.
It is the very parts of us that are broken that speak to other broken people.
Right.
And it takes the bravery to open your mouth and admit you're not perfect and you messed up, or things have happened to you that have not been good. It takes that humility and the bravery at the same time to do that. And that's what you've done. And then you think about all the different people that have been touched by what happened to you. And Kelly, you've also shared things in your life. So when we're open about that, God draws people to you. But you have to admit it. You have to open your mouth about it. And that does take that humility. But good night. Think about how many people have been built up by you sharing your story. It's amazing.
And and here's the thing. I think there's a tendency in at least the Christian circles that I've been a part of is to hide the mistakes, to hide to put that away and to act like it didn't happen, to paint over it. There is a tendency to not bring your junk and lay it out on the table. At least I grew up that way, feeling that way. But I think the thing that drives us toward Jesus is the fact that we're all broken. And I go back to this verse, and I just, I don't want to be a crying mess, but 2 Corinthians 4:7, I think just sums it up beautifully. It says, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us." So I can honestly say that before my life kind of fell apart into a million pieces, that the power was coming from me. I was doing it in my own power, but when life fell apart and I went back to the things that I had said I believed, I was like, you know what? Either this is true or it's not. And right now I'm going to find out if it's true or not. I don't know why we learn that way either. I'm not sure. That's one of the questions I want to ask God when I get to heaven. Like, why can we only learn through pain? Like, could we not, learn through, sunshine or joy, but we don't learn there. It's typically through pain or at least for me, I don't know about for y'all, but I learn the most when I'm in the depths of it and really struggling to keep my head above water. That's when I see God reach down and set my feet on a solid rock and keep those promises to me, because I don't draw on them as much in the times where I'm not, going through some kind of brokenness in our life. But I think we have to be careful, because then we can make brokenness an idol in our lives and our past an idol. And we're talking about moving past your past and making peace with your past. And I think the key to that is understanding what you've been given. The scripture says, 2 Corinthians says, he makes all things new. Nobody wants, of course, this is more popular now than it used to be, but nobody wants to be regifted. All right. If you have an opportunity to get a new gift or a gently used gift, chances are you're going to choose the new gift, right? Because it's never, what'd you say, Kelly?
Yeah, more than likely.
More than likely. Yeah. I mean, nothing against Goodwill, because I shop there often, but we all want new, right? And God doesn't just, because I think sometimes we just want God to fix it. We don't want new, because new comes at a higher price than fixing it. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I think one of the ways of doing that is reframing your past. And I attended an evangelism workshop one time that talked about the moment you knew you needed God so desperately. So that's a moment from your past, a moment when you were broken, a moment when you knew you needed God. That can be how you explain to someone else the power of Jesus Christ in your life. So it takes that moment of your past and makes it everything to share faith with. For example, I remember there was a time I was working in New York City. I had a double shift. I was working as a waitress. I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I was so horrified by that job. It was so stressful and terrible. I started smoking. I was like trying anything I could do to take away some of the stress. So here I am. I'm just a girl from Tennessee. Just walking down the street, trying to light a cigarette. I couldn't even do it. Going to this job I hated. Everything was wrong. Everything was bad. didn't have faith, didn't have joy. And I'm walking across the street and this cab driver comes right in front of me, almost hits me. All of the anger about my life, all of the pain that I was experiencing just revved up inside of me. I took my hand, I whacked the top of that taxi cab, and I told him he was number one in a wrong way. And it was that moment that I was like, who have I become? This isn't me. This isn't who I was raised to be. I knew everything was wrong about that moment. And that was the moment God started to rebuild me. And I was asked to speak to a group of girls who were struggling about my faith. And I used that moment to describe to them the anger and the frustration. And I could see in their faces, they understood the anger. They understood the emptiness and the frustration. And God used that moment from my past to tell them about his future. And so making peace with your past by seeing how God can use it in that one moment, that was so powerful to me. And it took that terrible experience and made it something to thank God for.
One of the other things I think we have a tendency to do is to think that we screwed up something in our past and all of a sudden got off of God's plan for our lives. That because we screwed something up, because we zigged when we should have zagged, we screwed something up and God can't redeem that. And, if God is sovereign, and all of this comes from a book that I read recently, if God is sovereign, then the plan B is a myth. There's no such thing as plan B. We are in God's plan for our lives. And so, Tricia, even that moment where you hit that cab was part of God's plan for you and part of God's plan for your life and your testimony, and you're turning your life back to him. He knew it was going to happen before it ever happened. And it's still part of plan A. You didn't screw anything up. We didn't screw anything up in our past.
That's
God's
so
bigger.
Comforting. Yeah.
God's bigger. So,
Yes.
somebody asked me, and y'all, can I be dead level honest here?
Yeah,
All
please.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, this is a true story. So I got invited to go to a Beth Moore conference when life was starting to crumble for me. And I did not want to go. Love Beth Moore, love to hear her teach the Bible. I've done a lot of her studies. But anyway, so I did not want to go, okay? And it was a rather small Beth Moore event. I went, and the first night, I did not want to be there. Like my hands and arms are full. I was like, I'm just going to roll my eyes the whole time. I was so unhappy being there, okay? Just acting like a spoiled brat. And the first night, she asked 3 questions. Let me see if I can remember them. She asked, why are you here? Why are you here is the only one I remember. Anyway, she asked 3 questions, and I was brutally honest. She asked us to write them on a sheet of paper and hand them in. And I was brutally honest. And I said, I'm tired of playing church. I'm tired of this whole mess. I'm tired of everybody here pretending like their life's good. I'm just tired of it all. Okay. So I turned it out. I was like, she's not going to read these. She is not going to read these. So I pitch a fit all night, get up the next morning, went to the first session, and she starts out the session. I actually have audio of this. I bought audio from the whole weekend just so I could have this moment. She starts the first session, and she was like, I got this one write-in that y'all submitted last night. And she's like, I just can't get it off my mind. And she read out loud my fit pitching on the piece of paper.
Beth Moore shared your fit pitching.
Beth Moore, put voice to my fit pitching right there in the conference, y'all. If the earth could have opened up and swallowed me right then and there, oh my word, I know my face was 12 levels of red.
You were pointing to the girl beside you.
I was so embarrassed because of what I had written on that piece of paper, because she read the whole thing out loud.
She didn't say Carol Davis though, did she? Please tell me she
No,
didn't call you
no,
out.
we didn't. We
That's
didn't put our
good.
no, we didn't put our names on
Yeah.
them. But she read it out loud,
Good.
and she was like, "I'm tired of all this too." And I was like, and it was in that moment, like, because I was so tired of being lost in the God so loved the world. I think we can get that lost in there, thinking that we've messed up so bad that God is only going to love us because he said he so loved the world and we're in the world. And so he got us thrown in, you know? And I think there are some of us who feel like we fall into that category. Like, well, you had to because you already said it. So here's what you got, you know? But it was at that moment that I felt seen. I felt like, ooh, God is calling me on the carpet about things and about honesty and about so many different things. And it was that, you know, that was at the very beginning when life started to fall apart. So all along the way, there are those road signs like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, you know. And I think it's like you said, Tricia, the power of what God has redeemed overwhelms you and puts your past into perspective.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to share that, like, really honest. Now people are like, what conference was it? Was I there?
No, I'm glad you did. And I'm glad to hear that she said the same thing, because the more honest we are, the more we're going to get, the more God's able to heal us.
Who gets glory from us pretending? Us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's never enough.
And it's temporary.
That will never fill your cup.
Right. And it's temporary.
So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So true.
That the Francesca Battistelli song, If We're Honest, go listen. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it, because it's, if we were all just honest with each other, with ourselves, with God, life would be different.
I heard somebody say one time that they had gone to AA meetings and that they had found God there because people were honest and didn't have anything to hide. And I was like, man, the church ought to be more like that.
Yep.
You
Well, that's
know?
interesting. Yeah.
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 Nobody had any airs about them. No, everybody was there for the same reason, which should be why we're there for church.
And we've
we're
all
just-
got past.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
all got junk. I mean, you may not talk about it, but everybody's got junk.
I got junk from today earlier.
That's true. I got junk from yesterday. It's still hanging.
I got junk from right now. But
So-
don't let your past continue to haunt you today, because God is bigger than your past and he loves you and he wants to make all things new. That's what I want you to hear today. I want you to hear that your past is an important part of the story, but it's not the hero of the story. Jesus is the hero of your story. And he has redeemed you. He's called you by name. He loves you. He's got a plan and purpose for your life. And he's going to do great things when you open up your hands and say, whatever you want to do with this, Lord, you go right ahead. That's when he starts to work. And it's often through those painful experiences in our past that he speaks. So if you got thoughts about this, we would love to hear from you. You're always welcome to email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. You can get on the Facebook page. We'd love to see you, Girlfriends of the Girl Talk podcast. And we'll see you next time we gather here around these microphones for the Girl Talk podcast. We love you.